everyone. Now, I never assume anything, and some of you may have just joined us, so a very warm welcome to you if you've just joined us here on day 2 of MEF Connects Wholesale 2021. You've joined us on the security track of the event, and thank you very much just now to Igor Skutsenya from LANCK Telecom, and he'll be joining us imminently on this session as well, because this session brings together a wide panel of participants, people who've been active in wholesale, have a lot of experience from the area over a wide number of years, some wider than others, and bring them all together in one place to really summarize some of the sessions that have just gone on ahead, because we're looking at the whole area of security. Is it just a requirement, or actually is it potential for far more? Can it be a solution services in its own right and bring far, far more business and ultimately revenues and margin along with it? Now, joining me, I have some characters well known from the industry. Unfortunately, one of them won't be joining us due to connectivity issues. We were talking about connectivity problems yesterday as well. But joining me right now is Cristina Rotaru from Yuboto. Cristina, hi.
Hi. Hi, James.
Hello, you're here, you're live. Fantastic. Nice seeing you. So, Cristina, you're over in Romania, aren't you?
Yes. Yes.
Fantastic.
In the dark weather, Romania.
Yeah, it's got a bit lighter up here in the north of England, but a very warm welcome to the show and the event here. You're Business Development Director with Yuboto. Would you like a few seconds to talk about yourself and Yuboto?
Sure. Thank you so much, first of all, for the invite. And it's my first panel, so I'm a bit nervous, I have to admit. I hope that I will be able to remark my presence here. I wanted to thank you for this opportunity to discuss about this interesting and very complex topic like security. This is something that it's been targeted by Yuboto for a very long time. I am with Yuboto for 3 years now. I have been developing the business on wholesale. I have been in wholesale industry and SMS for about 9 years now. Can't really believe how the time have flown. The experience that I have, it's on hands. Basically, I have started with everything from scratch. 9 years ago was a totally different story, talking about wholesale and SMS and enterprises. And now we are faced we are facing this disruption of technology, I would say, of this great evolution that pushes everything forward, and of course also the security. It's a part of this development and this evolving of all the companies that are involved in this equation. So yeah, this is a very, very interesting topic. As I said, I'm not an expert, I will have to admit, but as much as I know, I can discuss and share.
No, you've got the experience from the ground up, and this is why you're here, because I know you've got that experience from the ground up. And a very warm welcome, and your first panel. So, wow, fantastic. Now, the one thing you have not said about your company name, some of you sitting there thinking, Yuboto, U-boat. Yes, Yuboto is Japanese for submarine.
Yes, so that's true.
A bit different for a name for a company in the world of wholesale and enterprise messaging. So very warm welcome, Cristina. Thank you very much. Now, next up, I'd like to welcome Sudip Chatterjee. Sudip, hi. Sudip, I think you're on mute. You're doing my usual trick.
Good morning. How are you?
Hey, Sudip, very, very good. Thank you. So you are one of the co-founders of Globe Teleservices. Just tell us a little bit about Globe Teleservices, sir.
So Globe Teleservices is kind of a 10-year-old company. We are, trying to revolutionize the telecom technology over the time, stretching its boundaries, developing more custom cut products. Our span is well across like voice, SMS, and multifaceted products. Of course, security is one of the major focus what we have. So this topic, really, is something which we are really interested into. And I think, James, 40 minutes is too less for this topic. It's one of the broadest
40 minutes, and it was going to be 6 speakers, but now it's, I was going to say, just five speakers. We could go on for 400
Thank you for the 2 additional minutes.
By the way, you're the marketing director of Globe Teleservices. You didn't say that, sir, but very warm welcome. We'll continue on with the subject very soon. I'd like to welcome back from yesterday, Nadir Patel, Senior Manager International Roaming with Omantel. Hey, Nadir, hi.
Hi, James. Good to see you back.
Yeah, nice to have you back again. So Omantel, can you just give us a bit of an idea about Omantel, what you're up to?
So Omantel is the incumbent operator in Oman. We are a mobile operator. We also invest heavily into Yuboto cables, submarine cables, which is not very far off from the hosting business. So
I'm sure Yuboto wouldn't mind an investment from you guys either, but that's a different story.
For sure. I'm the senior manager in the international roaming, and I handle the voice roaming and messaging. Everything which I mentioned has a bracketed fraud around it. And security is, of course, required in all the traffic streams that we deal with. So pleasure to be here, and looking forward to this discussion.
Totally. Great to see you back here at a MEF event. And next up, we have Mr. Brian Darcy, who is the Chief Commercial Officer with ANAM Technologies. Hey, Brian. Hiya.
Hi, James. Hi, everybody. How are you all?
Yeah, you're always on point with your brand. I think there's no hiding who you're working for. No.
This is this is like the web room, the webinar room.
Fantastic. Well, no, great to have you with us. So, could you just explain a bit about yourself, your background as well, because there was life before ANAM for you, wasn't there?
Yeah. So I suppose quickly, I was with Telefonica, and I suppose happened to by accident get involved in the security space or the HP monetization. Then moved to ANAM. I've been with ANAM now 7 years this August. So it's been a pretty good run. And then this year, as you probably know, ANAM was acquired by Infobip. So very interesting acquisition. And I think it gives you a good indication of how important security has become. ANAM has a pretty good, I think, reputation in the security space. We've been named the best firewall globally 4 years in a row by Roco. So it's been an interesting run, and I suppose as A2P messaging becomes more and more dominant, or it becomes more of a kind of a go-to channel, security becomes more and more important. So probably in a good space at a good time.
Fantastic. The first time I met you 10 years ago, it was all actually to talk about security around messaging when you were head of wholesale with O2 Ireland. So a very warm welcome. Thank you for joining me here. And our final participant for today, welcoming back from just a few minutes ago, is Mr. Igor Skutsenya, Business Development Manager, Anti-Fraud Solutions, VAS, much more as well with LANCK Telecom. Igor, a very warm welcome back. Hi.
Hi. Nice being back here.
Hello. Yeah, I know. A long time no see. You're back. So let's get this underway. We're really here to talk about how security can be far more than it is today. But I'm a bad moderator, as we established yesterday in a couple of sessions, and I broaden out the scope and profile of things. I'd just like to ask you all, and I'll start with Cristina, rating 1 to 10, how you think that we combined as an industry are doing with protecting ultimately the consumer from a wholesale communications perspective. Cristina, how do you think we are as an industry doing? That's everyone.
As an industry,
1 to 10.
I think we're at about 6, on our way to the next level, but long process, I would say.
Okay, so we've got a room for improvement, definite room for improvement there. Fantastic. Sudip, what about yourself?
I think 6 again.
Okay, so you're more or less there as well. Nadir?
4.
4.
Yep.
Okay. No, I'm a bad, as I said, I'm a bad moderator. I'm not allowed to have an opinion, but I would be somewhere between the 4 and the 6. But there we go. Did that give the game away? And and Igor, what about you?
I would say that it's about 6.5 and 7, but I would say that we're a very promising student. We expect to increase that mark in a few years.
Okay, and Brian, what about you?
So I'm probably with you, James. I would say 5, and the reason I'd say 5. Sorry, there's a feedback there. The reason I'd say 5 is because I think there's been a pretty good job on security around monetization. But I think security around fraud leaves a lot to be desired, and I think there's a lot of improvement there.
Okay, so I'm going to get things underway because there are 5 pillars around security, whether it's cyber security or information assurance. There are actually 5 pillars. And one of the key ones is something, it sounds very posh in English, non-repudiation. But in plain language, it's making sure that whatever we're sending to the customer, the end destination, actually gets there, so proving it's actually delivered and hopefully delivered in good shape. But then on the other side, it's about the customer, from a messaging perspective, we're talking about SMS, knowing their sender, knowing the originator, and everything in between. So that's one of the 5 key pillars within the world of security. So Igor, let's touch on you, because your session before was talking about voice and is basically talking about this exact area. How are we doing as a whole within the industry for that pillar, the non-repudiation side of things? And can we develop on that and create some solutions actually which we can broaden out to the industry? That question was for Igor. Well, I think Igor has frozen. No problem. We'll come back to Igor a little bit later. Sudip, would you like to pick that up, please?
So if I look at it, it's like from the operator's perspective, as you well defined the 5 pillars, but to make it easier for everybody to kind of correlate, they are susceptible to wangary attacks, hacking, spamming, and these are primarily because of the legacy networks they are sitting on. And all these basically, somewhere, bring in congestion and, a drop in the revenues of both, voice and messaging businesses. And of course, cyber crimes are also on the rise. So on the other hand, if we see, like the consumers today are getting a lot of robocalls, spam messages, luring them to, engage in fraudulent activities. So my take here would be, we need to go for more modern day technologies, blockchain based technologies like DLT, and try to, kind of curb these activities. And, like I was just reading, like, FCC has also recently issued guidelines for anti-robocall. So I think so the direction is right. Let's hope, we catch it up correctly as an industry.
Okay, but there is scope to go. You think there is scope in terms of that security? You mentioned the distributed ledger, the DLT side of things.
Yeah.
With blockchain.
Yeah.
It's used heavily in India, I know.
Yeah.
And there is scope for that globally, to roll that out globally.
True.
Okay.
I mean, DLT is one of the best products I now see to combat all the congestion issues and the spam issues, which are kind of like draining the revenue of the operators. And I think DLT implementation is not only now in India. There are a lot of regulators now looking forward to come up with it. So
okay, thank you.
GTS is also like working with many regulators on DLT. Our product name is Armor. We are pushing it very strongly to stop the revenue leakages and also have the network security in place.
Thank you very much. Cristina, my next discussion point with you. So you've been working in the world of wholesale literally from the ground up for the best part of a decade. So you've seen it from all angles, moving now to be business development director with Yuboto. So how has security, the idea of that, changed over the time you have been in the industry? Has it moved, do you think, from something that companies have got to do because, hey, the regulator says we've got to do this, to actually something companies understand, well, no, actually, we want to do this because once we have this in place, the channels become trusted, and guess what? We get more business.
In the beginning, I believe everybody was just relying on the security that the already created systems had. I don't think we had a lot of thinking about how we should securize our data, our information. In time, this this threat became so big that everybody started to understand the need of an extra securitization method. In the beginning, as I said, it was all about SMTP protocol, one-factor authentication, and so on. I mean, we wouldn't think that the gray routes would go so far into attacking this network of securitization, so hard to create this disruption in leaking the revenues. So now I believe that a whole revolution of that has been made. It's the revolution of GDPR. It's the revolution of securitization of the systems, of the ISO certifications, which, to be honest, I didn't know much, and I was so thrilled to hear how complex this securitization can be and how much it can leverage a company's integrity. So having to go through all these, I think it only brings into attention all the new ways that the security can be breached. So because this become more and more involved, and the attacks are much more often in these days. It's so complex to discuss about all the security levels that we have to go through, talking from how somebody can hack your phone and read your messages, to how somebody can hack a platform and have a whole business disrupted. So yes, I do believe that this has evolved a lot in time, and it's going to evolve even more.
I think so. What you were really alluding to is that you, as a messaging company, enterprises, everyone has got a role to play collectively with
Absolutely.
Consistency there. And before, people were probably really reliant more on the network operator. Nadir, coming to you, you're from the mobile network operator here at Omantel. And would you agree with Cristina that if you wind back the clock a few years, there was probably more emphasis placed on you, the mobile network operators, to be the guardians, but now people are actually waking up and realizing that, hey, hang on a second, it's not just us, the mobile operators, you, the messaging companies, enterprises, and actually the consumer, from a certain degree and angle as well, can do their bit to protect these channels?
Well, I would agree and disagree a bit, because I still see that the customers to date, the consumer, the end consumer, still relies on the mobile network operator. So like I'll give you an example. When you go to buy a gun, the safety lock in the gun is part of it. Nobody sells it. Nobody tells him, oh, do you want a safety lock? I can sell it to you at an X value. And that is what happens with the mobile network operator also. When a person buys a mobile device, he thinks that the moment I have a SIM card of an MNO, I'm protected from everything. It is the MNO's problem to see that I don't receive spam SMSs. It is the MNO's problem to see that I don't receive non-CLI calls. It is the MNO's problem to see that even if I have downloaded an app which generates fraudulent SMSs without me knowing, they need to track it, they need to catch it, and they need to tell me that fine, I'm protecting you from everything that is happening around. So I think security is still a big burden on the MNOs. As your topic suggests, it's not only a responsibility on us. It is other than the requirement, it is a responsibility still on an MNO. Customers still think that my mobile network operator or my ISP provider, whoever he is, he has to ensure that everything is safe and secure for me. So I don't think a lot has changed in the last 10 years. Yes, with the smartphones coming in, a lot of smartphones have embedded security features which protect the customers from a lot of things. But still, I believe that it is the customer still thinks that the MNO is the one who should be protecting me from any spam, because they don't know the carriers in between or the wholesale partners in between who might be bringing in the SMSs or the voice messages or the voice calls in the network. So that's where it is.
Okay, thank you, Nadir. Igor, can you hear me okay? Igor, we can't hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, perfect.
Yes.
Excellent. You're back with us. Excellent. So this one is really good. I kind of know what you're going to say, but I'd like to qualify it. Are wholesalers, do you think, out there in the market being agile and open? Of course, we're talking about security here in general. So with regards to security, are they being agile? Are they being open? Are they embracing the opportunities great security provides?
I mean, of course, any telecom operator is very much interested to serve the best quality they can for their customers. And a lot of transit operators and intermediaries are also provide the gateway for enterprises, so that international enterprises would, when they need international voice, international SMS, et cetera, they wouldn't sometimes go to the mobile operator, the national mobile operator that they have, but instead they would turn to an international transit operator that would also provide them with international connectivity. So, and I think in that regard, they're as much interested in countering fraud and being agile, introducing changes as other parties. I mean, obviously, the businesses ran differently than you would expect from a retail mobile operator, but yeah, we're all different.
Fantastic. Brian, over to you. Would you say security is an enabling technology? So it's basically, it's the answer to, hey, it's more than just something we've got to do. And how does it enable?
Well, I think just to maybe grab on the word there, it's more than something we just have to do. So if you look at messaging, so it's universally, I think, known now that, you know, SMS, HP SMS is a fantastic way for enterprise to communicate with customers, because it's simple, it's ubiquitous, it works, and, you know, all the things we've heard for the last couple of years. And I think, you know, so therefore, why wouldn't we realize that it's also the best possible way for fraudsters to trick the consumer? So I think if you look at HP SMS, there's a view that it's only starting. You know, there's reports to say that only 5% of enterprise use HP SMS, and I think the same is true of maybe fraud. Is that if it's all in its infancy, and because SMS is so good at communicating quickly and getting a response from the recipient, it's also probably one of the best fraud tools that's available, because the communication can be done at arm's length as well. So you know, I think we're at the start of something very big here, and we need to grab it as an industry. And then, you know, you start to think about the last question was, is it the MNO or is it the brand? I mean, we had kind of an interesting case it's public, so I can talk about it, in Ireland, where one of the bank's customers were fairly heavily attacked, and there was pretty serious money taken from consumers. The bank accounts were empty. Now, in that case, what happened was the bank got hammered for having poor security. The operators didn't even enter the conversation. I think what needs to happen there is you know, it's been said, everybody does have a role to play here, and you know, it's very difficult to regulate this stuff because it's a global market. Regulators work within, you know, territories, whereas this is, you know, truly global, and so therefore you ask the question, whose role and whose responsibility is it to regulate this stuff? And the only people really who are in the room on a global level are the operators, you know, groups, the aggregators, and the enterprise. And between them, they have a role to play, and they need to use technology. They need to use best practice. They need to communicate. You know, they need to use forums like the MEF, the GSMA.
I was about to say that. I thought you'd missed international forums from your response. I was about to jump in on you.
Yeah. Usually important.
Bad speaker, but there we go. But you didn't. You rescued yourself at the end, Brian.
So you know, it's a massive opportunity as A2P grows, but fraud is a very serious threat that needs to be taken head on. And the players, you know, the players on this call, on this webinar, the MEF, the GSMA, everybody does have a role to play.
Fantastic, thank you, Brian. Sudip, now over to you. International forums, like Brian did mention, such as MEF. We've got the ITW DLF, which Jussi Michaela was on the panel with me at the beginning of the day earlier on. And they've got a big role to play. So we've got a big role to play in contributing to the protection of telecoms networks across the globe. But how big a role do you think they do have to play? How important is it that these trade bodies actually deliver?
So, being an active member of GLF and MEF Code of Conduct, I can see that we are trying to standardize the security concerns globally. Also, like under the MEF Code of Conduct, I see all the members actively working towards making standard SOPs for distinctly defining the international and domestic messaging. James, in my opinion, this is a great initiative which MEF is doing. I feel once the SOP is ready, its adoption will make the life easier for especially the regulators, of course, underlining operators, and the vendors who are providing security solutions. So kudos to what MEF is doing with respect to the adoption, the SOP which is being developed.
Thank you very much. And just for the audience, I had not transferred any money to Sudip by PayPal prior to this call, or indeed any other well-known finance payment mechanism. So Sudip, thank you. You opened the door very, very well there to initiatives. And Brian, in Ireland as well, you were well aware that MEF has rolled out its SMS sender ID registry across Ireland. So hopefully that will do its bit, certainly on the short code side of things, at the tip of the spear to stop those type of attacks.
Right, absolutely.
Yeah, brilliant. Thank you very much. So, Cristina, I know you wouldn't be familiar with the actual probably technology and virtualization and everything, but the cloud we're all familiar with, and the fact that the standalone hardware, the fact you've got hardware sitting here in a switch center in a room now, everything has moved to the cloud. Has that made, for example, your life at Yuboto easier when it comes to the world of security? Or would you say, actually, hang on a second, that it's actually made life easier for the bad actors, the bad guys out there wanting to perpetrate fraud on you and your customers?
I have to tell you, James, I am not extremely familiar with all the levels that the cloud has.
It's just the cloud as a whole. So the fact it's gone virtual, it's just
right.
That's all we're talking about.
In my opinion, as a programmer, I can tell you that there is no perfect security whatsoever. No in cloud, no in a data center that is sitting next to you. So everything evolves as the data evolves. What I can say from the perspective of Yuboto is that Yuboto has taken extreme measures, I would say, to go through all the certification of security ISOs to be able to provide this kind of security to the clients further. So I can say that when you realize that you have a lot of responsibility, even if it's in cloud, even if it's in a data center next to you, even if you're hosting your own servers, even if you have, whatever setup that you would like to have, you realize that you have responsibility towards the client. And that responsibility is to keep the data safe and protected at all times. It doesn't matter how you do it, but it matters that you want to do it and you have the means to do it also. So I think having a very good structure for enabling these security levels, it's really important for any type of company. It doesn't matter if it's an operator or if it's an aggregator or if it's an enterprise company. The data enters and leaves a system. So if you are handling the entrance and the exits correctly, nothing can happen in the meantime.
And you've got to determine if that data is actually authentic. So you actually touched upon the pillar number 1 of the world of security, which is confidentiality, and pillar number 2, which is all about integrity. So very, very good points. So Nadir, over to you. Same question to you, actually, from a network operator perspective. This whole move to virtualization, because I know you were actually on it was a panel yesterday, weren't you, with Susie, right, talking about this whole area, virtualization with voice. Yes. Are you finding actually you're having to think more about security because of this whole world of virtualization?
Well, obviously, any technological changes or any technological development that happens in the world has its pros and cons. So if we were having a discussion yesterday about cloudification of the wholesale voice, And there were a lot of plus that it will become easier for operators or partners or wholesale carriers to interconnect. You don't need to invest a lot in your POPs. As MNOs, we have historical investments in POPs, so you might have a more agile, more slimmer way of functioning. But then it will also open up the doors for a lot of perpetrators and fly-by-night operators, because once you start putting up your data on the cloud, then there will not be much more visibility on what happens once it moves from one when the handover and takeover happens. So yes, if we are talking about moving towards the cloud, we will obviously have to invest again in the security point of view. And that's what, I mean, my thoughts are on this.
Fantastic. Thank you very much. So, so Brian, let's come back to you. Let's talk about training and education and skills. It's okay having fantastic technology.
Yeah.
It's okay having amazing buildings, amazing solutions, amazing everything. But if you don't have the people to operate them, if you don't have the people to keep or attempt to stay or keep yourselves one step ahead of the bad actors, there's absolutely no point. So how are we going as an industry from this skills gap, which I know is out there when it comes particularly to cybersecurity and anti-fraud?
Yeah, so I mean, as you say, you know, and we're a huge believer in the people side of things. So, you know, we've got very good systems, and we've got AI, and we've got, you know, machine learning, and all sorts of things. But really, you know, I suppose it does need human intervention, because fraud doesn't stay the same. If it stayed the same, you could have all the technology in the world, but it keeps evolving, and as it evolves, you need the human eye to kind of watch it and look at it, and therefore you need a mixed skill set. You know, you need solution engineers. Solution architects, you need engineers, you need analytics people, and you need to talk to the network, because things can happen sometimes on the ground that won't show up in analytics. And I think, you know, it's a case that, you know, within the industry, we just need to recruit, and we need to train, and we need to educate. We're lucky in Ireland. In Ireland, there's quite a solid capability around messaging for lots of different reasons. Dublin was a kind of a messaging hub for technology, so that definitely helps us. But I think as the industry becomes more mainstream and gets a higher profile, it also then it's attracting more talent to it. And the important thing is that the people in the industry obviously communicate their skill set, but then also, you know, new ideas and new perspectives come in and have a look at it, because it is evolving, and as I say, it does need that human interaction. So, you know, years ago, the if I call it the gene pool of skilled people in this space was very small, but it has got much bigger as the industry has grown.
Yeah, I know things have changed. So, for example, in Dublin, you've got the HQ of Facebook over here, over this side of the pond, so many others. And I'm pleased to say that the valuations of some of the large messaging companies alone, that's just the messaging side of things, is huge. So people are understanding, hang on a second, there's a really big industry to play in, and it's really, really interesting. Now, Igor, over to you. We've been talking in other panels before about this whole silo problem, that people are talking about security in messaging, people are talking about security in voice, security in IoT, or, hey, there's a cybersecurity expert on payments. How do we as an industry go about providing solutions, or can we expect to provide security solutions? Any one company provide a solution actually which can cater for voice, payments, possibly IoT and other areas as well? Is that realistic of me to say that, or not? Or do we have to still rely on these specialist silos?
I think it would be wise to just see, I mean, there are very, very few companies that would be capable to provide solutions that are good enough, and several solutions that could be applicable in different industries. And obviously, it makes a lot of sense if, for example, we're in voice and SMS business for us to have a perfect insight in the industry, into the needs of the business that we're in. We're very, very educated about the challenges that the voice business has. We're very, very educated about the challenge that SMS business has. Maybe not so much in fintech, maybe not so much in IoT, but you know, we're not the biggest fish in the pond. Obviously, there are larger businesses And it's a very dynamic environment. I wouldn't say that there's kind of a pattern that we could expect from one company that has all the tools necessary. I mean, even the largest names have trouble facing challenges that small companies don't. So I wouldn't expect a single player to have all the aces in their hands.
No. Okay. Thank you very much. Sudip, it's hard to believe, but our 40 minutes together is nearly over. So just some concluding remarks. Rather than me directing you, just speak from the heart about the whole idea of security being more than just something you need to do.
So, I strongly, personally, at least believe that security is the largest gear which can drive opportunities towards network monetization, help in gaining the, confidence of the last mile consumers. And one more thing which I would like to emphasize based on the last topic you actually touched is security is a much larger picture. If we really want to, emphasize on security in the right way, I would say it has to become a citizenship's right, and the governments of various countries need to take it up as they take up the safety and the health issues of their citizens. So, if that is taken up by the state governments, then the things will automatically fall into place rather than working in silos or putting the entire security concern down the throat of the operators.
Fantastic. Thank you very much. Nadir, you had some you had the cavalry coming in to help protect the operators. It's about far more than just the operators. There we go. Cristina, closing remark from you, please. You're on mute. You're doing my usual trick.
Sorry.
No
so in a quick closure, I would like to say that I think education is about it's all about education. The security enhancement is going to be all about educating our clients, our colleagues, our partners to understand how this digitalization is taking over. So we're talking about a lot in security. That means everything around us, right? Everything that we do becomes more and more digitalized. We are up to going to biometric control almost. So I think we are a long way to reach the perfect security level that we all want to.
And as you said, sorry about cutting you off in your prime, but as you said, you were a programmer as well. You really have done everything, and there is never going to be perfection. So we'll never ever get to that 10. Brian, just a few words from you to close rapidly.
Yeah. So look, I suppose the headline of this session was just a requirement or an opportunity. I would say absolutely, it's a requirement to protect the opportunity. If we do nothing now, HPSMS will become just another channel that was, as opposed to something that can be, a prime part of comms for enterprise into the future.
Thank you, Brian. And Nadir, I'll leave the last few words to yourself, sir.
Well, thank you, Sudip, for standing up to me. It's so exactly what I'll take it up from where Sudip dropped. It's a responsibility, I think. It is a requirement, it is an opportunity, but most importantly, it's a responsibility for all the players who are there in the market today on the wholesale, be it the voice, SMS, any technology you call it, cloudification, or whatever, from the wholesale carriers to the MNOs to the end customer also, to educate them, to make them realize that they also need to be responsible for their own protection and security of their devices, of their mobile numbers. I think it's a collaborative approach that we have to take in terms of the security.
Nadir, fantastic. I think just personally as well, again, on my bad moderator theme, for me, it's about transparency and control. If the end user, the customer, has that transparency, they know who they're dealing with, they can have trust in that, and they can actually get some control over the amount of their data which is floating around. That can't do any harm. So I'd like to thank Brian Darcy, Chief Commercial Officer with ANAM Technologies. Pleasure joining us from Dublin. Thank you very much. Igor, Skutsenya, LANCK Telecom. Sudip, Chatterjee, Globe Teleservices. Thank you very much. Nadir, Patel, Omantel, pleasure seeing you again today. And Cristina, your first panel, you did an amazing job, and it was lovely seeing you. Thank you all very much. Bye for now.
Thank you very much.
Bye-bye.